I'm Steve. I'm the owner and founder of Keystone Knowledge. I set the organisation up in January 2020 because I really wanted to drive up the quality of services that MATs and schools receive across the country. Today I'm going to be talking around some of the top tips that we can consider when looking to grow your trust. Growing your trust is hugely exciting. It's also quite scary. There's a huge amount of things that you need to consider when you grow your trust, and not every trust can be the same. Since 2010, as Academy Trusts have grown and we've become used to this plethora of organisations out there, becoming unique in what you do and growing your trust the way that you want it to be is really important. Today we're going to share some tips and things you need to consider as you embark upon this journey. Schools often work on the principles of children first or vision and values that say something very similar to that. That's great, and we genuinely mean it when we work in schools. But what is it that makes your trust unique? What are the characteristics that define it? Knowing that and understanding the golden thread that runs through your organisation can be really crucial in the conversations that you have with the schools that join you. Being able to enunciate what your values are and how they come to life in the day-to-day aspirations of the school and the way the schools work, and how the children will experience those values in their day-to-day education is really powerful and helps be the litmus test to the activities you want to put in place. It helps inform the scheme of delegation. What levers of power, control and responsibility are you going to give to the schools? What are you going to retain centrally and why? Understanding those visions and values is a real lightning rod to being able to come back to that point of sanity when things do get difficult down the line. Many times we've worked with trusts that have come together on a really collegiate, best practice, best endeavours approach, saying nothing really changes, it's just going to be a family of schools working together. That's great in the first instance. But 18 months, when a school is struggling with its educational performance or a different school's got challenges with its budgets, what is the guiding principles that hold you together? Really knowing the vision and the values that hold you together, what makes your team of people come together and work as part of your trust, can allow you to answer those questions more clearly and to have certainty that you're doing the right thing moving forwards. Sometimes when we look at the business plans of growing MATs, we see organisations that have over £100 million turnover, over £20 million in the bank account, and it's very easy to just see zeros on a balance sheet. But that's not what we do, is it? Schools are about children, and we have to make sure that all of our conversations around growing our MATs keep children at the heart of what we do. We see some trusts that try to grow because they want to do it for ego or for vanity or for chasing the top line, or because they've got financial problems and they think that growth will help them out of those financial challenges. That's never the answer. Good, effective MATs keep children at the heart of the conversation and work on a basis of growing when they can add something to the lives and the vitality of the school that those children are in that are coming to join the trust. And similarly, knowing that that school over time will be a capacity giver back to the trust as well, enhancing the experience that everybody receives. Trusts are all about children, and strategic growth has to have children at the centre of what we do. You don't go and buy a house and not have the relevant surveys done. Due diligence is exactly the same process for growing your trust. It's about understanding what the assets are, what the liabilities are, and where the opportunities lie. Good DD takes time, and it shouldn't be skimped as part of a process. It certainly shouldn't just be a tick boxing exercise to enable you to get the board resolution to allow you to grow. A good due diligence should give you a report that enables you to take stock, to look back, to reflect on the information presented in it and say, is this school the right opportunity for us? Or is there someone else out there that this might be better for? Due diligence covers the whole range of activities in the school. It isn't simply taking the financial accounts or the budget and understanding what the deficit's showing at the year end, or looking at the pupil numbers on roll and seeing how many are coming in next year, or looking at the educational outcomes and reading the last Ofsted report. It's much deeper than that. A good DD process needs to be planned. It needs to be focused around the key areas that you want to know more about, any areas where there's potential risks that might come out that will be a liability to you in the future. It covers all of the areas I've mentioned and more. A good due diligence report will look at estates, it will look at health and safety, it will look at HR, it will look at onboarding, it will look at educational provision, it will look at finance, it will look at IT, it will look at catering, the list goes on. The key is making sure that you and your executive team have taken the time to consider what is it you want to know and put together a list of requirements as to how you're going to get that information and what are the conversations you're going to have. We've carried out multiple due diligence exercises for trusts, and we're very happy to talk to you about how we can support you with yours. But what we do know is the really valuable parts aren't the data. It's actually understanding the mindsets and the people that you're talking to and the conversations that due diligence brings about, because out of there are often nuggets that you can then follow your professional nous to understand more, to ask further questions. Understanding the balance of schools in your trust is important, because if you have too many schools that require too much capacity, you may risk the potential of all of the children whilst you're trying to provide that support. Similarly, not having enough of a range of schools within your trust might lend a potential flight risk for some of your staff and limit the potential opportunities for CPD and professional growth. If you're looking to be an all-through trust, how many primaries and secondaries do you want to have? And what's the balance? We should never grow a trust simply because of the financial efficiencies that bringing a secondary in can bring. Those numbers can be really significant and the economies of scale can be large. But do you become too dependent on secondary funding? We've seen examples where trusts fall because of that. When a secondary leaves, they become financially unsustainable. So being able to balance up the constitution of your trust and knowing the types of schools that you want to take on is really important. We would absolutely advocate looking 3 years down the line and saying, how many schools do I want to have my trust at that point in time, and why? And being able to decide what types of schools they are, because that helps refine the conversations you're going to have with other stakeholders as you look to grow your trust. We've all been in those meetings and those conversations where growing your trust often becomes a bit of a beauty parade, where you'll go into a meeting and you'll be following somebody else that's presented before you and there's somebody else coming after you, and you go in with a slick PowerPoint presentation or a video about your trust. Don't know about you, but I find those absolutely excruciating, because you don't talk about children. We talk around the marketing of what's going on in the trust. When you're talking to schools about wanting to join your trust, they will instantly see through a slick marketing message. What they want to see is authenticity. They want to see the sparkle in your eyes when you're talking about children. They want to understand that you know what it means to run a fabulous school where children running in the morning, desperate to learn. Understanding the conversations that you're trying to have makes the whole process more human. Growing your trust, identifying the schools you want to work with is relational. Schools of all the organisations in the world are people places. So why too often do we fall back on slick marketing techniques that feel exactly like a cold sell? They shouldn't be. We're looking to have conversations with people that want to join our family of schools, and they'll have hopes and fears that we need to address. So we often find the best way to get involved in conversations about growing your trust is exactly that. Get involved in a conversation. Take the time to do the legwork, to understand what it is that they're looking for as well, not just what you can bring to the organisation. It's a really important part of developing that trust that is so important in a multi-academy trust. Making sure that people understand who you are and they buy into your vision and values, and that you can understand where you're going together and whether or not it is indeed the right partnership. A beauty parade just doesn't do that. I hope you found these tips useful and enjoyable. If you have, please like this video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for future alerts of other tips that we're sharing. Also, see our website at www.keystoneknowledge.com for information on how our services can support your trust.